Good morning, dear respected Thai, dear brothers, dear friends. Today is June the 21st in the year 2020, and we are in the Moon over Mountain Peak meditation hall of Solidity Hamlet in Deer Park Monastery. And today is Father's Day, so we would like to honor the fathers everywhere. So this vase of beautiful flowers here is from Sister Mangim's offering to her father, who is sitting in the back there, Papa Chung. So, and then he offered these beautiful flowers to be sitting here in front of us. So thank you. These flowers can represent the beauty, the good qualities that our fathers have transmitted to us, so we can give rise to the feeling of gratitude for our father on today's day. So first I'd like to introduce my brother sitting next to me. Is Brother Jai Dao Tue, or Brother Path of Insight. Brother Dao Tue is from Ireland, and myself is Brother Jai Nguyện Lực. Brother Aspiration Strength, I come from Thailand. Actually, today we were supposed to have a panel sharing of 3 brothers, but the other brother, Brother Mintian, is not able to be here because of some health complications. And so only 2 of us. And we do our best today to offer, to share with you our practice. So a number of weeks ago, we were given a list of questions and challenges posted by our Wake Up community. And we were asked to address these topics, these questions. And so for me, I looked into the topics and I decided that I would like to share on the topic of self-love and self-acceptance. The reason I feel resonated with this topic is because it is something that has been a focus in my practice for quite some time. And also I recognize the tendency in myself to be quite harsh on myself. Whenever I make a mistake or make a wrong decisions or unskillful, I tend to be very harsh on myself. And also sometimes when there's a situation that brings about pain and suffering, it's kind of like the first arrow, being struck by the first arrow. And if I'm not mindful, I will add a story to it. I will analyze it. I will judge myself, etc. And that is the second arrow. And also sometimes I can add the third arrow, which is to judge myself for judging myself, thinking how terrible I am for not practicing well, for judging myself like that. So I'm aware of these tendencies and other habit energies in me. And I thought to myself, how can I transform these habit energies? How can I do better? One of my aspirations in the practice is to have unconditional love for everybody, regardless of who they are, what they do or have done. And I realized that for me to be able to do that, I need to start with myself, to offer unconditional love toward myself. And unless I can do that, I cannot offer love to others. And so I thought, how can I love myself unconditionally. So our teacher Thai teaches that understanding is the foundation of love. And to love is to understand. So I ask myself, how can I understand myself? What am I made of? So I started looking deeply into myself, into my habit energies, why I am the way I am, why I behave in a certain way, why these are certain habit energies. So I started to write down on a piece of paper a list of positive qualities that I have, and also a list of weaknesses that I have. And I do the same for my parents. And what I found out was that there are a lot of similarities, both qualities and weaknesses that I see in me, in my parents. And I see that they are me, and I am them. When I can see like that, I also look further into the way I was brought up, what my childhood upbringing was like, the culture I was in, the schools I went to, the kind of environment I was in as I grew up as a young adult, my education, the work I did, all the people I came across in my life. All these things make up who I am, including the things I consume. For example, the 4 kinds of nutriments. Namely, the first one is edible food. Second one is sense impressions. So the kind of things that I consume through my eyes, my ears, my nose, bodily touch, and my thinking. And the third one is volition, or the deepest aspiration in life. And the last one is consciousness. In this case, it's the store consciousness, or the collective consciousness, collective energy in the environment that I live in. So all these things contribute to making who I am today. So with that kind of understanding, I have a little bit more clearer understanding of myself. And with that kind of understanding, it brings me acceptance. And with that acceptance, I feel love for myself. And I can take action by creating wholesome conditions so that transformations can take place. And I can practice mindfulness, cultivating awareness, so that whenever habit energies like self-judging come up, I can recognize it and I can take care of it. So writing down the qualities and weaknesses also helped me to see that I also have many beautiful qualities in me. And instead of just focusing on trying to fix what I don't like about myself, trying to change it, I can turn the focus more towards the beautiful qualities that I have as well. Not to forget that I have these qualities. So one of the things I do is to write down a list of good qualities I have, and bit by bit, and I'm very surprised, there's quite a long list. And I post it on the wall in my room so that I can see it every day. This is not for me to be too proud of myself, not at all, but to shift the focus towards wholeness and also to recognize that these qualities, they do not come from me alone either. They also come from many causes and conditions, including from my ancestors. And I practice to accept both qualities and weaknesses in myself, and not to accept just the qualities and reject the weaknesses, to include both. And inclusiveness is also one of the 4 elements of true love. And Thai teaches that when somebody criticizes us, we can say to that person, "You are partly right. I also have many qualities in me." Or if somebody compliments us, we can also say, "You are partly right. I also have many shortcomings and weaknesses in me." So to keep that humility and to preserve the view of wholeness in us. So I try to practice to keep this view of interbeing, interconnectedness, to see the ancestors in me, to see all the elements outside that are part of me, try to keep them alive every day. And there's one practice that we do here every morning after sitting meditation, which is silent touching the earth. And that is the time that I contemplate interbeing. With the first touching of the earth, I contemplate getting in touch with my blood and my spiritual ancestors that are in me, all their qualities and weaknesses. I include and accept them all. The second touching of the earth, I get in touch with all animals, minerals, plants, and everything on earth, and all human beings, all beings on earth that are alive in me, right here, right now. And the third touching of the earth, I get in touch with the no birth, no death nature. And to recognize that this me actually is a stream of life that has no beginning and will continue to flow until this body disintegrates. So I try to practice in such a way that this insight of interbeing is alive in me all the time. And with that understanding, I see the causes and conditions. I can understand, I can accept, and I can love myself more. Maybe can we have one sound of a bell, please? So Thai teaches that to love is to understand, and to love is also to be there. To be there, to offer our presence to our loved ones, that is the best gift we can offer. So I remember on the day before I ordained, became a monk, there were 8 aspirants. There were 8 of us. We were in Thai's hut in Plum village. And each of us were given a calligraphy from Thai. He write it on the spot and hand it to each one of us. And each one of us receive a different calligraphy. So this is the one that I received from Thai. I am here for you. So I am here for you is a sentence or a kind of mantra that we say to our loved ones, that we recognize the presence of our loved ones. Before we say that, we need to be fully present ourselves. And we offer our full presence for our loved ones. So when I received this calligraphy from Thai, I thought, that's so nice of Thai to be here for me. That's nice. So whenever I have difficulties, I can always go to him, I thought. But later on, I felt, well, it's not exactly always easy to approach Thai physically. Sometimes he has many things to do as well. So later I thought, he also means he's there for me, in me. He's always there in me. Whenever I need him, I can always ask Thai in me. Or if I face some difficult situation, maybe I can ask Thai, dear Thai, what should I do in this situation? If you were in my shoes, what would you do? And usually he would answer, dear my child, please come back to your breathing. So this is a kind of mantra, I am here for you. The mantra is like a sentence that embody loving speech that we say to our loved one and let him or her know that we see them, we understand them, and we care for them. So this is one of the 6 mantras that Thai teaches. And I apply it to myself also. I am here for me. That is another meaning of this calligraphy. So I put it on my wall. So to be there for me means to bring my mind back to my body, aware of my in and out breath. Practice mindful breathing to recognize that my body is here together with my mind, and not to neglect it. And there are practices of mindfulness that help us to bring our mind back to our body. So to be there also means to be there for our body, for my body. And that is to not neglect that my body is here and not to have my mind elsewhere, to bring my mind back to my body, and to recognize the presence of my ancestors in me, and to appreciate this body in here, alive, in this moment, and to do all I can to take care of this body, to consume healthy food, to exercise regularly. And to express my appreciation of the good conditions that I have for my body, that my body is still healthy and still function normally. That's a practice called hugging meditation in Plum Village tradition. So in this practice, 2 people come together and breathing in and out mindfully, and then bow to one another, and then embrace each other to recognize the presence of the other person in our arms, and to contemplate 300 years from now, where would we be, both of us? Both of us would be ashes, maybe be part of a tree, part of the earth, part of the water in our lives. And when we recognize that, we appreciate the preciousness of each other's presence. So I do the same toward myself. I practice self-hugging meditation almost every day. And I breathe in and out. And I say the mantra, I am here for me. I also say another mantra that we say to our loved ones, which is, I know you are there, and it makes me very happy. But I say, I know I am here, and it makes me very happy. And I want to live life to the fullest, to be there for my body, truly. So to be there, to love my body, to love myself, is also to make myself happy. One of the ways that I do is to practice loving kindness toward myself. I often do that, just sending me wishes and intention for well-being, for happiness. But intention alone is not enough. Loving kindness, I must have capacity to make myself joy and happy. And joy, loving kindness is the first element of true love. And joy is the third element of true love. So in relating to myself, if I keep making myself suffer, then that's not true love. And one of the simple ways that I can bring myself joy and happiness is to practice mindful breathing, mindful walking, in order to recognize all the wonderful conditions that I have right now that are nourishing and healing for me, and to get in touch with them. And for example, I can go for a walk in nature. It is very healing, very nourishing. Touching the beauty around me. So that brings me a lot of joy and happiness. And there's another practice that I do also. Whenever somebody greets me or asks me a question, how are you? Sometimes I don't answer directly. I might pause a little bit, and then I will look at my hands. Yeah, I have 5 fingers, still intact. That's good enough reason to be happy. Or I might say, I have food to eat. I have fresh air to breathe. I have clean water to drink. That's good enough reason to be happy, regardless of my mood at that time. But I make this question, how are you, as a bear of mindfulness for myself, to remind myself of the good conditions that I have. And by saying that, it helps me to be reminded. And it brings me a little bit of joy and happiness already. So to love myself, to be there for myself, is also to be there when there is pain and suffering arise in me. And there's another gatha that we say, another mantra that we can say to our loved ones when we see that our loved one is suffering. And that is, I know you suffer, that's why I'm here for you. So I say it to myself, I know I suffer, that's why I'm here for me. To really be there for for me, for my suffering, for whatever is there. Recognize it and embrace it tenderly. And not allowing the second or the third arrows to be shot, because that suffering is already the first arrow. Just to take good care of it, be there, and treat it gently. I can say to myself, I can say the name of that emotion. Let's say if it's sadness, I can say, my dear sadness, I'm here for you, and I will take good care of you. And I try to make it concrete. Sometimes I would put my hand on my belly, just aware of my belly rising and falling as I breathe in and out. Pay attention to the belly rising and falling instead of paying attention in the head area. So bring it down to this level. I may smile at my emotion, or I may write it down. Sadness, my dear sadness, I am here for you. I try to make it as concrete as possible. I may practice slow walking, meditation, just to slow my body down, to calm my body down. And slowly, bit by bit, the emotions is calm. And when my emotion is calm, I can start to look deeply into it, the causes and conditions. Look into the situation. Perhaps there's a misunderstanding. Perhaps there is unskillfulness or wrong perceptions. And then I can also look deeply into that suffering, to look at its nature, its roots, its impermanence nature, its interbeing nature. And sometimes I see that it's the same kind of suffering that my parents carry, and it's been transmitted to me. It may be the wounded inner child in me, and it may be the wounded inner child of my parents, of their parents. And I want to listen to him, to my wounded child, tenderly. Listen to him deeply. Take good care of him. So with that kind of understanding, see where the suffering comes from, it helps me to accept myself more and to love myself. But if I'm not careful and I shoot the second arrow, which is adding a story to it, analyzing it, judging myself, etc., then I recognize that as well. And if I'm not careful, I shoot the third arrow, judging myself for judging myself, then I recognize it as well. That I don't need to be so harsh on myself, and I can give myself a hug and just say, it's okay, it's all right. Just need a little patience. Certain suffering and habit energies may have been transmitted to me for generations of ancestors. And I just need to be a little patient, need some time. I cannot expect to transform within a short time. And I don't need to compare myself with other people, because each person have different causes and conditions. I don't need to make myself suffer. There's another mantra that Thai teaches. We can say to our loved ones if we believe that our loved ones make us suffer, which is to say, I suffer, please help. When I make myself suffer like that, I can say to myself too, I suffer, please help. May I have another bell, please? So to summarize my sharing, to love myself is to understand myself and to be there for myself, and also to have the four elements of true love for myself, which is the loving kindness, compassion. When I understand myself for my suffering, compassion arises and I can suffer less. And the third element is joy. And the fourth is inclusiveness, to include both the qualities and weaknesses in myself. And also to have patience, which is a mark of true love. And to treat myself with reverence or respect. And to trust and have confidence that I can do it. Because I know I have the seeds of awakening, seeds of understanding and compassion, many beautiful seeds in me. And I can take actions by creating wholesome conditions. I can make sure the things I take in terms of the four kinds of nutriments, are wholesome. And to continue practicing mindfulness, to be able to recognize and be there, whatever comes up, habit, energies, etc. Of course, I'm not able to practice what I shared all the time. I'm not able to accept and love myself all the time. And that's okay. That's okay. Just like the Venerable Phước shared in his talk last week. If we fail in the practice, we just try again. Just do it again and again and again. It's okay. We just need a little patience, that's all. And also, the good news is there are many opportunities to practice. Every moment is an opportunity to practice. Every mistake is a lesson to learn from and to grow. Every suffering is a chance for me to cultivate understanding and compassion. Just bit by bit, slowly, to have this understanding, acceptance, and accepting the qualities and weaknesses in me. It doesn't prevent me from developing my qualities and addressing my weaknesses. So I would like to end my sharing with a quote from Thai that I like very much. To be beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself. When you were born a lotus flower, be a beautiful lotus flower. Don't try to be a magnolia flower. If you crave acceptance and recognition and try to change yourself to fit what other people want you to be, you will suffer all your life. True happiness and true power lie in understanding yourself, accepting yourself, having confidence in yourself. Thank you for listening.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, it's very nice to sit up here with you all. Yeah, and I guess I want to start by saying hello to the New York Wake Up Sangha, because this sharing was born of them posing these questions to us. And of course, with two of us in a short period of time, it's hard to address ourselves to every question, and so we're doing our best to offer a kind of composite sharing that hopefully is meaningful for you and also meaningful for us too. Yeah, so looking over the questions, it seems like the world has changed a lot since the questions were posed a few weeks ago. But looking over them, I guess some themes that stuck out for me were something about living together. Perhaps living together in closer quarters, being in conflict or being isolated. Yeah, and how we cope with that and how we practice with that. And I think that certainly is a theme that comes up in my practice a lot, living in Plum Village. We live in kind of close quarters together. Most of the time I've lived with 4 to a bedroom. With personal space just consisting of your bed box. And so certainly, yeah, when there's less physical resources available, part of our training is to cultivate that inner resourcefulness to take care of ourselves, to take care of our inner world, and to learn how to take refuge in ourselves and in our practice. But I've been imagining the people that wrote some of those questions in New York City, this idea of living in close quarters with family or flatmates, maybe with your kids in the apartment all day with you, working from home, not able to get outside. And I've been thinking back to times when I shared apartments as well, like that, and what that can be like even under good circumstances, and how we can get on each other's nerves, how simple things around the home can take on a kind of significance, like whether someone cleans up the kitchen after they make food, or leaves the milk out, or whatever. It can become this like a battleground between us. And when we don't know how to take care of it, we can almost be like sneaking out of our room to make food when someone isn't there, and like everyone taking their food back to their room, or things like this, these kind of dysfunctional ways of taking care of ourselves. Yeah, so it's tough. I wanted to acknowledge that. And I was thinking about how we take care of conflict as well. I think we all seem to have different dispositions when we are in conflict with each other, different ways of dealing with that conflict. I think for some of us, in our when we're under stress, our position is to brook no aggression, to become more aggressive and to like ante up when there's a conflict. I think other times, or for other people, we have this need to avoid the conflict, and so we just say or do whatever is necessary to avoid disturbing that equilibrium or provoking anything. And then I guess there's a more kind of subtle or refined version of that where we just tell the other person what they want, but then go off and do our own thing anyways. And that's something I notice when people come to the practice at first, or when people come to the monastery. People sometimes adopt a kind of spiritual persona towards conflict. They say, I'm practicing now, I should be equanimous and just accept everything, and these things don't touch me, these conflicts. And sometimes it's true. I think if we have a good deal of groundedness and equanimity, we can keep perspective on life, keep perspective on our difficulties. And other times it's not true, and these small things that we ignore or suppress or push away, they just build up and get bigger. We kind of bypass them by using the practice to actually avoid coming into contact with life as it's happening around us. And so that's one of the qualities that I think is important in life generally, and also in conflict, is to try and keep an eye on how open we are feeling, how open are we to life, and how open are we to the idea that we're in conflict now with each other, that we're in a difficult situation together. Openness is really important as a quality. We have a sutra that we focus on in Plum Village that we recommend to ourselves on the 5 ways of putting an end to anger for when we are feeling angry towards someone. And I guess to practice that, we need a certain amount of openness in ourselves. A lot of the sutra involves reframing or changing perspectives of how we see the other person, or seeing them more fully, and also selectively paying attention to their good qualities at the expense of their bad qualities. And I think that openness is really fundamental. It basically allows us to see from the other person's perspective. I think initially when we're in conflict, we're hurting, and we're stuck very firmly in our own shoes and our own point of view. And it seems alien to us to try and consider it from the other person's perspective, as long as we're suffering like that. But I think once we're able to take care of our initial suffering, like some of the methods that Brother Nguyện shared, we can gain a kind of spaciousness or openness around those conflicts. And it's not just like a method to get rid of the conflict, or like a kind of a life hack or something. I think what's important and what's really transformational is to really be open to experience life from the other person's perspective. I think when people come into contact with each other, and there's that degree of empathy, I guess, like the willingness to really put yourself in someone else's shoes and to spend time to consider it from their perspective, people feel it. It kind of changes me when I can do that. I soften when I can experience it from someone else's perspective, what it must be like for that person to also be in conflict with me. And it also changes the other person too. On some level we feel it. We feel it when someone is just saying what we want to hear, but not really open to us. The first 3 mindfulness trainings of the 14 mindfulness trainings are really foundational in this openness, non-attachment to views, and freedom of thought. And that can be a lot to hold in our heads, I think, when we're like caught up in the cut and thrust of our relationships. It can be hard to kind of cross-reference what's happening with the text. Generally, what I try and look at is, do I have a sense that this is right or wrong? Am I applying that lens of this is right or this is wrong, whatever is happening or whatever this person is doing? And for me, that's instinctive. As soon as something happens, I'll easily apply, like, that guy is like way out of line, that's not appropriate, this shouldn't be happening. And my openness closes at that point. And when I sit with it, I see I don't know, I guess we're just brought up that way. As kids, somehow it's easy for kids to understand right and wrong, and it's a kind of simple view of the world. And then as we get older, we realize that it's a bit more complex. Like Brother Nguyện shared, if we're to sit with ourselves and reflect on our good qualities and our bad qualities, we see that it's not this or that, it's far more nuanced. The picture of ourselves and who we are as ourself, but also as humanity. There's no like idealized person who is 100% good all the time. And I think deep down it's applying that lens of right and wrong to situations is a way of us avoiding feeling vulnerable, to enter into a vulnerable space with ourselves and with other people when we're in conflict like that. And it's really tricky because it's not comfortable at all to feel vulnerable. Already we're in like a tense situation with ourselves and with whoever we're in conflict with. And then there's that invitation to become vulnerable and to experience it. And it's tough because there's a kind of groundedness in knowing what's right and what's wrong and what the appropriate thing is. And we can kind of retreat to that and sort of push towards some kind of outcome. It's something quite different to enter into a space with someone and be totally vulnerable, and even to recognize that we have our idea, but it might not be the truth about life. That might not be the final word on the kitchen, for example. Like if someone, I'm thinking of conflicts I had in apartments in the past when I was younger. Like whether someone cleans up the milk or not, that doesn't even make them a good person or a bad person. That's just like their style or their disposition, or whether they hoover once a week or vacuum or they don't. That's just them. It's not even a moral issue. But it's so easy for me to kind of fall into that and castigate the other person. And I think the pity about that for us, when we fall into that way of looking at things, is it kind of drains the color from our life. We lose that kind of openness to life, and we impoverish our experience of life. Life becomes less alive. It becomes kind of dead when we already know what should and shouldn't happen, and it's all preordained like that. What we lose is that sense of when we kind of harden our hearts like that in these situations, we lose that sense of curiosity about life, about the other person's perspective, and also that freshness just for whatever is happening in life as it unfolds by itself. And life becomes a drag, basically. And so there's another way of looking at that, is that through maintaining contact with our sense of vulnerability, through not trying to immediately apply like the lens of right and wrong to the situation, we come more into contact with life, and through that we can learn and we can grow through these kind of situations. These situations don't need to be an annoyance or a bother at the end of our day. They can become like the grist for our practice mill, if you like. And that's also in the 14 mindfulness trainings, that I will maintain my openness, that truth is not absolute and changeless, and truth is found in life, and I'll maintain my openness to that, to learn and to grow throughout my life. And that's a really beautiful spirit to enter into conflict. And it also kind of negates that second hour that we can have, that this just shouldn't be happening. I've just had a long day and I shouldn't be in conflict. Of course, there is a certain discernment that's required as well in ourselves. It's not to say that there's never right and wrong, or like appropriate or inappropriate things to do. When we ground ourselves in our breath and in our body and are in contact with life, we come into contact with what our values are and what's important to us, and that informs how we act. It's not like we're just going to enter into a kind of relative void where anything goes exactly. That would be to somehow disengage from ourselves. Yeah, another thing that can happen to us when we're in conflict is a sense of disconnection can arise easily in ourselves. I was thinking about it the other night. I was in a meeting the other night, and we were talking about something as mundane as a fan, like a maintenance issue. And it's a technical discussion. It's like a technical solution to the fan. It's either this solution or that solution. And as soon as the other person started sharing, I felt this kind of like disconnection arising in me, which feels like a kind of heaviness in me, and I start to kind of shudders start to like roll down across my eyes almost. And I was reflecting on that. I don't even care like what happens, what technical solution we pick in terms of a fan. So what is going on in me right now that I feel disconnected like this, and I feel this separation and this kind of pain to be separated. And when I sit with it, I think I have a need in these moments for connection with people, a need for a sense that I'll speak and the other person will listen, and for understanding. And somehow when those conditions are met, it's actually very easy for me to like let go of my idea. It's important for me in my relationships to have that sense of lightness and spaciousness and understanding and connection. And that's one of the things I've learned here living in Plum Village. When we have Bhikshu meetings, so meetings of the community to take decisions, the primary aim isn't to actually take a decision. The primary aim of the meeting, to my mind, is that we share and we understand each other, and that the meeting is a kind of vehicle for us to get to know each other and to understand each other more. And to do that, we propose topics, like it could be about a fan. And through the course of those discussions and seeing how people really feel, we somehow understand each other more and come closer to each other. And like Brother Nguyện was sharing about understanding and love, somehow when we understand each other well enough, we can love each other, and that sense of tension slips out of the discourse. It's easy for me to let go or to cede or to whatever when that connection is alive and vibrant with who I'm talking to. And so there's another quality of mind or another perspective that's born of that way of looking, and that is also to ask ourselves if we cultivate the capacity to see the goodness in everyone. Brother Nguyện was talking about seeing the good qualities in himself, in self-love. And I think a natural extension of that is that we also start to recognize what everyone else has to offer too. And we've kind of organized our life here in the monastery to foster that. We haven't organized everything to be super professional. If you walk around the monastery, you see all these weird plants growing, and there's no theme or no structure to it. It's almost like layers of archaeology, these strata of like, well, in 2017, the brother from Ireland was the landscaper. And the year before that, it was a Korean brother, and so on. And I just know Irish plants, so I plant Irish stuff, and someone else plants stuff that grows in Korea, and that's what we have. We have this strange hodgepodge of a garden up here. And maybe it doesn't conform to a certain, like a conventional aesthetic, but our aim as practitioners and as a monastery, as a community, isn't to grow beautiful, cogent gardens. Our aim is, to my mind, is to help people to be themselves and to express themselves. Just to allow them to be who they are. That's, to my mind, really what's being cultivated or what's being grown in the monastery, not so much the plants or whatever day-to-day stuff we take care of. And really, that's also an important quality when we're in conflict, is to ask ourselves if we're really able to be ourselves. Are we in touch with ourselves enough to be ourselves in this moment? Are we open to who we are as a person who has come from these parents and this society and these conditions? I think we all know times when, I know times, at least, when I've been afraid to talk to flatmates, to ask them to do something or change something, like about the milk or something in the fridge. And I think in those moments, the issue takes on an importance that it doesn't rightly deserve. Somehow some part of me gets invested in the argument. So if this guy doesn't accept my way of vacuuming the house, there's something wrong with me, or I'm a bad person, or something like that. And either I try and not approach the topic and it kind of builds up, or else I come on too strong, like kind of like the little rabbit that gets like a gust of courage and just kind of like blasts in. And I think on some level the other person feels it. They feel that the argument somehow isn't about the vacuum cleaner, it's about you somehow. And how could that person ever like address themselves to that topic by talking about a vacuum cleaner? Like, either they have to kind of give in and give you your way to avoid you feeling bad about yourself, or they try and stand in their own 2 feet, and somehow that denies who you are or is like a slight on you. And it's not true. I think we all know people that are grounded and at ease with themselves and who can very easily walk into, we'll have flatmates like that too, who can walk in and say, hey dude, you need to like clean up your crap when we're finished here, or like put away the milk. And there's no conflict, and it's received and it's accepted. And I guess on some level, it's not a big deal to them. They've given it just the importance that it has, that topic, and they're at ease and at peace with themselves. And of course, the result of that is when people come into contact with someone like that, it kind of generates ease or peace in them also. That's what kind of resonates with them. So I've been thinking about that, looking for that sense of I have arrived, I'm home, in my way of conflict, whether I can accept that it's happening, and on a bigger level, whether I can accept myself as I am and be kind of grounded in my perspective and be open to being vulnerable and to sharing my point of view, and also being open to receive back from the other person, not being afraid that if they don't agree with me that somehow there's something wrong with me or it'll cut off my life breath. Yeah, somehow the sharing has become kind of circular. I see we started off with self-love and focusing on ourselves, and then reaching out towards conflict, like the kind of external. And I think we're coming full circle again. I think fundamentally, it is about ourselves, like our way of dealing with conflict, where we have most agency and autonomy and room to grow, is in the domain of us. And that sense of, like, do I touch that sense of I have arrived, I'm home, that sense of belonging to ourselves. And so Brother Nguyện Luc has shared about those practices of belonging through coming back in contact with our breath, our body, through contemplating our parents, our ancestors, where we have come from, through touching the earth. All these things give us a sense of belonging and help give us that ground to stand on when we're in these tight situations, when we're feeling disconnected. I was thinking of some of the questions that the Wake Uppers asked talked about loneliness, feeling lonely, and I think that's a topic that's alive for me at present. I've just moved to this center from France, and somehow I have that kind of sense of loneliness is alive in me. And it's interesting because part of my desire to move was to have a bit more space and time for myself, but also knowing that wouldn't be totally true, and what I would really encounter would be a sense of loneliness. And I wanted to get into that and spend time with that. But somehow there's that kind of dialectic between loneliness and solitude that I guess many of us are experiencing. That sense that it's possible to feel lonely in a crowd, or to stand outside knowing that you're just a sack of flesh and bones and look up at the stars and see light coming to you from stars that don't exist anymore, and feel somehow very connected and a part of something. And I don't think it's one or the other. I think sometimes we hit from one, rock from one side of those extremes to the other. But at its heart, I think it's that sense of I have arrived, I am home, that sense of belonging that mediates that experience between feeling lonely and the experience of solitude. I think if we can feel that sense of belonging, or having arrived in ourself, in our practice, it's very easy just to be ourselves, whatever the situation, and to be complete in and of ourselves in that situation. So dear Sangha, dear friends in New York, thank you so much for your questions, and we hope you're doing well and staying safe.